Happy Halloween.
It's an absurd holiday.
Oh yes, putting on costumes and striking fear. Quite absurd.
All it takes is one bad day. You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This is not my home. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I am your host, Ryan Lauer. The Batman Book Club is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Just go to batmanonfilm.com and click on the link to the Bat Pod Network for a whole list of other Bat-related shows that also love to dive into some other nerdy subjects we all love to frolic about in our free time. The Batman Book Club is also a member of Patreon. If you like what's going on with the show and would like to help support it to help keep the lights on in the Wayne Manor study, you can do that at patreon.com/thebatmanbc. Now, thank you for listening to episode number 80 by Darkness Possessed, another chapter in this month's spooky season of Batman stories. Joining me, he is no stranger to me. He's no stranger to you if you are a frequent listener. He is the head honcho of the Batman on Film podcast. He also loves the Midwest, and I would swear he almost loves that Kirky Cousins more than Bruce Wayne himself. It is Mr. Garret Grev. Garret, welcome back to the Batman Book Club.
You know, God bless me. I do so much love Mr. Kirk Cousins. You know, he's like one day, years from now, I could see him like on the Mount Rushmore, another Midwest reference, of like favorite personas of mine.
Mm-hmm.
To get up there with Batman, though, he's got to bring home a Super Bowl at some point. So, you know,
maybe this is the year.
Ooh, I don't know. It's not quite off to that start, but anything can happen. But Ryan, thank you for having me back. It's a joy, as always, to be here.
So yeah, you're back.
I'm back.
It's been a while.
It has.
I don't remember what the last book was that you were on for.
I'm guessing it was Earth 1 Volume 3? Or did we do something
Kingdom
after?
Come.
Kingdom Come.
No. Nope, it was Earth 1 Volume 3. That was
Yeah.
it. Yeah, because that was the summer. That was the last one. It's been a couple months.
Oh my gosh.
It's been too long.
Been a while.
Holy moly.
I used to think that Peter and I were actually in a competition, but he's just blown me out of the water.
He is.
You guys, I don't know how you have time to read so many Gotham. This is not even Bat titles. I listened to the last recap. I'm like, there's stuff I don't even think Batman was in this issue, and you guys are talking about. Like, oh man, I do thoroughly enjoy them, but I feel like it's a cheat. Like they shouldn't quite count into the real competition, but you know, whatever. That's up to you. You're the librarian.
I have a few thoughts though. One, you will catch up to Pete soon if he keeps going on with this bullshit Hawk Book Club show that he and I are going to do.
I think people think it's real, by the way.
I think they do too, and Pete's not helping that. He's not curbing public opinion. But secondly, for this DC, somebody from DC had to hear as soon as we started this monthly wrap up, because they then decided to announce 15 more Batman series to go, into which Pete and I too are like, damn, dude, like
so many.
What have we gotten ourselves into? But by golly, we are committed. We're going to see this through until we're both just sick and tired of it or what. But it's a lot. Not gonna lie, it's a lot, but I'm glad that you listened to it and that you enjoy it, because it's nice to hear that anybody enjoys the episodes, let alone those wrap up ones. That's the hardest homework for sure.
That's a lot of homework. It's not read an issue, talk about an issue. It's read these 20 issues and take notes.
Oof. Which, speaking of, that's what we did for this. So I want to thank you, Garret, for again. I love this spooky month, because this year it's been like single issue stuff. Last episode was the Fears, the Legends of the Dark Knight Halloween special, but that's Loeb and Sale. Give me that sucker every day and twice on Sundays, and I will read it. It's a breeze of a story. But you too picked, it's a bit of a somewhat oversized single issue, but you too kept the homework minimal. So I really appreciate that. You're a hero.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think here's the deal. There are a lot of opportunities to read, your 10 issue, 12 issue, even 16 issue runs, or like, the prestige format books that get put together, like Kingdom Come. But sometimes it's just really fun to focus in on a singular issue and say, let's take a look at this bad boy. And the issue we're talking about tonight is part of a longer, it's a multi-issue crossover series, but we're looking at, one issue from it. Why? Because it's got some kind of spooky stuff going on in it. And it makes sense for this glorious, I call it the season of the Nightmare Before Christmas, because I like to go all the way from October and celebrate all the way till 12 days after Christmas, and just bam, we get all the good stuff in one part of the calendar year. But particularly for Halloween, man, it's got monsters, it's got, demons, it's got all sorts of like evil magic, and there's some like spooky satanic type, well, it's more religious-ish stuff going on. And I said, yeah, let's do this one, Ryan. Why not?
Yeah. So let's hit up. It is Batman Annual number 16 by Darkness Possessed. Now, Garrett, this was quite a conundrum that I asked you about before we started recording of what should we even name this, because it's Batman, the 1992 Annual, number 16, called Eclipso, The Darkness Within, but you open it up and it says by Darkness Possessed. So there's a lot there to
a lot of words.
deconstruct, in which I'm really glad that you're here, because you know how to deconstruct something well. But the script was written by Alan Grant and John Wagner. The artist was Vince Giordano. I will say, I haven't heard of this guy. Shame on me.
Yeah.
It was released in 1992. It's, as far as I know, and I'm always excited now when somebody chooses a book that I have never read before. I get thoroughly excited. I'm very excited. But this was quite the humdinger, as the Midwesterners would say. Quite the humdinger
Real
to track
humdinger.
down. Not available digitally.
No.
Not available in any kind of traded collection. That means you got to go to them back issue bins. And I'm going to tell you, because you sought this out. The next day was a Tuesday. When we chose this, you chose it on a Monday. And I'm like, I'm going to the comic shop tomorrow anyway to get some Bat books. I'm going to check the back issue bins. What do? I find their annual section, and there is one copy in pristine condition.
Boom.
Batman Annual number 16 for $4. And I got it. So
Can't go
thank
wrong.
you, Garret Grev.
Well, you're welcome.
you.
Right. And I hope maybe this piqued your interest, because I know you've read Batman books from this time frame, but the crossover, one of the reasons why there are so many words and sort of like choose which title you want to go with when it comes to this particular issue, is because Batman Annual number 16 took place in a larger crossover. You know how the comic book publishing companies like to do that. Here's a story. You got to buy all these issues from all these titles you probably don't read. This was
Fear State Cough.
Oh,
carry on.
Don't get me started. Or like what was the one that really annoyed me? Convergence.
Yeah. Convergence. I have heard very negative things about Convergence, but yeah.
Well, anyway, this one is Eclipso, The Darkness Within. And it kind of ran through, it was 1992. So it doesn't give you like the full on crossover 90s. It was a little bit too earlier to have like lenticular covers and, holograms and everything else. But it was a series from 1992. It was co-plotted by Robert Loren Fleming and Keith Giffen. And it's kind of one of those crossovers that has gotten a little bit forgotten. So it was before the death of Superman. It was before Nightfall and everything that came from it. And then you have like the later 90s kind of big stories. We've talked about a bunch of them here, in the Bat world, No Man's Land, and, kind of bigger Superman things, and, with Kingdom Come and other stuff that really kind of landed. This early 90s stuff kind of gets forgotten. And it's, I think there's a reason. It doesn't necessarily go toe to toe with some of those, but it's super fun, in my opinion. I think there's some super fun stuff that only this type of story can show you. And it felt Halloweeny enough for the two of us to spend some time
it felt
jabbering
so
about.
That seems like the answer for my third question.
Oh,
so
ahead.
You started at the end. So let's go to the second question. When was the first time that you read this?
The first time I read this was in December. December 1992.
Wow.
I'm trying to
Little
remember.
Garret Grev reading some Batman comics. Good for you.
Yeah, so this was actually considered a January issue, but it was on the newsstands in December. And I got this sucker. This is my original copy that I'm holding, listeners. This was what I found in my stocking from Santa Claus. In the Grev family, if you were good leading up to Christmas, you got smaller gifts put in your stocking. And I got this very issue shoved in my stocking one morning, and it has a terrifying face of Joker. I can't believe my mom actually purchased it. I mean, Santa actually brought it to my house because it looks like, Jack Nicholson from The Shining,
yes.
prying open the doors with his, bright red eyes and almost Tim Sale-ish teeth, just really pretty startling cover image. But it was one of the first comic books that I ever owned on my own and got. I think I was into Batman. This was a quick purchase. I wasn't really a true comic book collector yet. That didn't happen until the death of Superman. But this was one that I got early. And there's so much in it that I was confused by because I was not reading, the multi-issue crossover Eclipso the Darkness Within story. But I did love the art, and that's, at being a young boy, that's probably what I spent the most time just like, oh my gosh, this looks so cool.
So the cover is killer, in which we've seen that if it's not Sam Keith, please let me know who it is, because it is Sam Keith. That's Sam Keith. Okay, flat out is Sam Keith. That's a great cover of his. It definitely makes me think of the Return of the Joker video game that was on the NES system in the early 90s. It makes me think of that instantly. I love also, though, the back of the issue.
So great. So the back of the
God.
issue, the handheld for any 80s babies, 90s kids.
Yeah.
We all remember
Tiger Electronics.
The little handheld video games. It took most of the time 2 AA batteries on the back. And these were the most
killed your batteries.
Yeah, man,
killed your batteries.
It just, I had this Batman Returns. That's advertised. So you get DeVito Penguin. So Peter would just absolutely dig this.
Shout out Peter.
But it's like where you would move the direction pad, and it would just be like the same stagnant picture would move to the right or the left or up or down, and then a button that would shoot little things. Like, to say this was like elementary level graphics is probably giving it too much credit.
So I love that the image that they use is such a close up of DeVito's Penguin, and they use, they threw that line in the movie. You don't really think you'll win, do you? Because they're like, boom, this is our promotion, our marketing is done. Slam that on everything. But I mean, and at the bottom, if you haven't pieced it together, big picture of DeVito, that quote's at the top, and then it says, there's a picture of the handheld game at the bottom right, and it says, Batman's fate is in your hands. Batman Returns, the movie, is now Tiger's hottest handheld game. It's you and Batman versus the Penguin, Catwoman, and a whole army of evil enemies. With 5 skill levels, it's the Caped Crusader's greatest challenge. and
And yours.
I don't think I ever beat a Tiger electronic game. I
Your
really
batteries
don't,
can't
because
last that long.
exactly. And then, I mean, eventually my parents were like, dude, we cannot keep buying batteries because they're
Yes.
expensive. We've got milk. Okay. We've got
Yeah.
eggs we got to get. We're
Right.
not
There's
buying your
gas
batteries
for
for
the
your
car,
Tiger
Ryan.
electronic.
Right.
Oh God. Good times. Good times. But yeah, so that's fun. That's on the back. And
Absolutely.
I think if you piece it together, usually the first question is always, which version did you read? It's pretty obvious. We read the physical copies of the issue.
The floppy.
Yeah, that
Can
right
you hear
there.
it?
Oh yeah, Garrett. Let me tell you, Justin Kowalski would be proud, because not only was this in great shape when I picked it up, I pulled it out of the bag. There's no board. So that impressed
No.
me even more. It was just a bag, and it's still in perfect condition. But man, I opened it, and
Oh,
the smell of a
a
90s
distinct
comic.
odor. Yeah. A
God, it smells
pleasant
so good.
aroma is probably a better way
Pleasant
to say
aroma
it than,
is
yeah,
right.
distinct odor.
I was so friggin' happy with my $4.
Oh,
Cat's out of the
yeah.
bag, literally, because my cat, he is outside the door meowing.
I haven't seen him yet.
But here, this is for you, Ryan Haas. I'm just gonna name drop every one of the Bat Boys, but
Oh, there he is. Meow.
you heard him, right? Okay,
I did.
he's investigating. Yep, there we go. Okay, so, but I enjoyed this for a number of reasons. The story itself was bonkers,
Totally bonkers.
but also fun.
Yeah.
The art definitely takes me back to early 90s in a Breyfogle Aparo way. I think it looks like that. I think it was great. I think it's definitely just looks like a good, mostly good, like, mimic of it. Respectable attempt. And then just like the quality of the physical issue that I have too. It just really made it somewhat nostalgic for me.
Oh, it's
that
100% nostalgic.
period,
Yeah, you get, that's the other thing when you go back and read older comic books in the physical copy, because you get the ads and like stopping to see like these, sort of like mail away pages that aren't in comics anymore from some random company called Print Advertising Representatives Inc. in Lynbrook, New York. And they literally want you to like clip little like pieces of paper to mail in, with like $4, or like a Sega Genesis boxing game ad. Like that's just, that adds so much. It takes you back in a way that is pretty remarkable. I think just for
90s,
me too, like
90s Guy Gardner.
Got
what a
a
bull
full
cut.
page ad with his orange bull cut and the whole deal. But they used to do this thing. DC was a big fan. Bloodlines came later in the 90s. But they loved to do these crossover storylines in annuals, because it felt like, I don't know. I always kind of wonder, like, if no one's really buying the annual, no one's making you print an annual. I guess it's just,
then why?
So I think maybe just don't do it. But I guess it's just like, hey, we've been printing annuals for decades. We got to have an annual. But this storyline ran through a lot of the major DC book annuals. And that's kind of a 90s thing that you don't really see so much anymore. Either your annuals tie in a little bit more loosely to whatever storyline's going on, in the title itself, or it's like kind of a anthology type thing with 4 different stories. Maybe they're in continuity, maybe they're out of continuity.
Now you're more well versed in the Eclipso, the Darkness Within crossover than I. I think that's fair to say, because I have no knowledge on it. I don't remember it at all. So in a nutshell, do you know what the point of that story was?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. Eclipso, had been a character for a very long time and was sort of this B-list villain. And Eclipso actually calls that out in sort of this like very meta moment in one of the books, where he was sort of the dark side personality of a character called, see if you can figure this one out, Haas, Bruce Gordon. I don't know if Very creative
Okay.
name making.
Name is mentioned in this comic, and I even thought, wait, what?
Who? Yeah, so Bruce Gordon
Huh?
is a character. The character was named after Bruce Wayne and Jim Gordon. But he's been around for quite some time. It was
Bruce
like
and Jim had a baby?
yeah, it was like an inside joke. Yeah, now it might raise more eyebrows. Back then, it was just like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. But it was sort of like, sort of Jekyll and Hyde, where Bruce Gordon was a nice guy, but when there was an eclipse, Eclipso would come out, and he was like this madman who was sort of like super powered villain, had some kind of crazy scheme. But in the 90s, DC retconned the Eclipso to sort of be this big, much bigger character where he was actually, not just, the sort of dark side that Bruce Gordon tried to keep repressed, but was this spirit of vengeance and was a demon and actually had essentially the job of the Spectre before God fired him and imprisoned him on the moon. But his spirit was broken into like 1,000 shards of this black diamond that were scattered all over the DC Earth. And that was Eclipso's master plan for how to, all of a sudden he said, I want to break free of being this, sort of B-grade villain and really cause some havoc. And I'll do that by, having this like shards of this black diamond scatter all over the earth. And I can take over the bodies and minds of heroes and villains alike and like put my power out there and my spirit of vengeance to sort of like take over the world, of course. But that was essentially the story of Eclipso, his plan, or Eclipso, the darkness within, his plan of how to like rise the ranks to being a major villain that could really do some serious damage. And then, of course, how the good guys fight back.
Whoa. Now,
yeah.
Knowing none of that.
Oh, well, one more thing,
sure.
super important to mention. So in this, when you hold one of those black diamonds, if you have like anger in your heart and you're thinking about who has maybe done you wrong or what is
Eric
this
Holzman.
thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Eric Holzman. You're thinking about Aquaman taking all the swimming records in the whole world just for himself. Being a jerk about never letting Michael Phelps ever get any records anymore. And Michael Phelps has the diamond, right? And he's like, ooh, that Holzman. All of a sudden, a big, giant, like dragon, demonic type creature would go and fly to New York and like take out Eric Holzman. And Michael Phelps would be like, oh, dang, that's the end of Eric the Aquaman Holzman. Either I feel good about it or I don't, but that's happened. Oh, shoot. So that's kind of thing. It wasn't always a big demonic demon that would show up and exact vengeance. Sometimes people would be in like given those powers and they would go on this sort of like out of control hunt for vengeance and to get revenge. But that's essentially how Eclipso was going to do his damage, by unleashing his forces of vengeance through the angry hearts of people that held these black diamonds.
All right. So that's a lot.
It's a lot.
But
does it sound spooky?
No.
Okay, well, shoot.
But the images make it where it fits perfectly here. Okay.
All right, great.
The script, Alan Grant and John Wagner. We all know Alan Grant can hold his own.
Sure,
the guy's done wonders on the Batman mythos. Which maybe John Wagner is the glue for all of these crossover issues. Maybe he's part. I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing. And Alan Grant got dealt one of those. Hey, you have to write Batman annual.
You got to play ball here, man.
But this is a good standalone issue too. I don't know anything that you just said, but I fully understood from beginning to end what happened in this. The pure extent of the history of this black smoke, and there is a part that's alluded to of Gordon. Let's see, what's the part? It's the dude in the bar. It was positively super. All Commissioner Gordon did was hold this black diamond, and next thing he had smoke pouring out of every orifice. Okay, that says see Detective Annual number 5.
A little editor's note.
Yeah, by the the end of the issue, it's just kind of like, to me, oh, Gordon must have gotten his hands on this too. You know,
Right.
it's not like this open chapter of like, I'm not fulfilled by the end of this issue. They did a good job, I think, of giving you the elements that you need to know. So this is like this is what some other writers for DC doing crossovers like, take note of how you can do a self-contained that, hey, if this has interested you
Totally.
enough, sure, track down the other issues, see if the whole story does something for you.
Well,
But for this one,
which is exactly what I did, years later when I started really
mhm.
collecting comics. I'm like, oh, I've got this Batman 16 that says Eclipse of the Darkness Within. And I, we didn't have a comic book shop. It was like over an hour and a half away. But when we went there and I'm like thumbing through, the long boxes, I'm like, oh, hey, this logo, it's like that Batman book I have, let's get this. And started, building out and reading it. And you're right, Ryan. One of the greatest things about this issue is it is a part of the larger story, but it's not beholden to it. You can read this and enjoy it as a singular issue. You don't necessarily need to know what's going on in the larger crossover to enjoy it and appreciate it. And I think way too often writers, it's instead of like taking place in the world of the crossover, it becomes a serialized installment in the crossover, which just isn't as much fun because I don't want to have to trace down, whatever random team book that I've never bought before and try and read that. And it doesn't quite fit together just right anyway. So I think this approach it's my preferred way to go.
Yeah, because let's see, 3/4, maybe even a little bit more of that. This plays out like a normal Batman story. Batman's tracking down goons, interrogates them because the Joker has gone free, gotten loose again, and he's trying to track down where the Joker is. The Joker hears about some element that can give him, power, and so he wants to know how he can get it. He gets his hands on it. Batman tracks down the Joker, and then the two fight it out. The old Dukeroos. In the meantime, we've heard about what this Black Diamond can do, and we're given a nice scene where it's like, okay, we get to see it now play out because we do see a dragon demon thing. We see the black smoke, and we see what it does to these guys, and Batman gets to witness it. So it's the story is constantly progressing. We're getting all this information. I love how it starts off of, this is a Batman's chasing goons, and he does a great interrogation of, the like his bat rope wrapped around somebody and drops them down right in front of a truck, pulls them up at the last second. Like, all that's freaking Batman. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's 90s Batman, like hardcore badass Batman,
It's great too. And this really is, it does feel like that early 90s, just on the heels of Nightfall Batman. And it's got, I think from the way Batman interrogates goons, very much, the 90s, early 90s, sort of like Batman comics really shifted into a little bit darker take and presentation of the character, of course, following up on the Burton movies. But you see it. This Batman's a little bit rougher, right? He's really willing to work some people over and put some fear in them. But the imagery for me is just fantastic. You get Batman. I said, kind of doing I'm going to rough you up and intimidate you. But you also get the detective work with Batman's looking for, what's this substance underneath these fingernails, and there's a little bit of everything. And then, of course, it's more fantastical, more monstrous. But before you get there, you get like some really rad Joker stuff in this book too. I think just from the way he's portrayed and some of the imagery, like you get Joker sitting on top of a massive mountain of cash, and in this book it's like a whole throne made out of stacks of cash.
Yeah,
like count me in, man. I'm an easy sell for that stuff. It's going to get me every time. He's
in the wax museum, but also a torture chamber,
of course. Because what kind of wax museum wouldn't have one?
Yeah, and the way that he does, I forget what it's even called, but basically like a machine that's pulling you from both ends.
Yeah, the stretcher.
You know,
I don't. Yeah,
yeah, in which
the
they
rack.
capitalize on later because the poor guy, I mean, he's in pain. We're seeing that he's getting tortured because he knows where the Black Diamond is, and he's getting tortured by Joker to give it up, and then of course he gives it up and then meets his untimely death via a very nice dose of Joker gas, and then his body's found later on, in which they even say of like he wasn't there like injury in his back or something like that.
Shoulders
like,
were dislocated.
yeah, something was dislocated. So it's not like he was, and that's just part of the progression of the story there too. We're introduced to this guy in a bar. We're introduced. Batman is trying to track down the Joker. Then we get this guy. Then we follow this guy to the Joker's hideout, and then the Joker's goons dispose of his body. Meanwhile, we just see a woman. It seems almost like the beginning of Die Hard, or no, Lethal Weapon.
Lethal
Weapon, not Die Hard. A woman's just standing out on the ledge, and then I don't know if she jumps herself or if she slipped.
It's kind of she's out there saying she's going to jump, and then whether or not she actually takes the action to jump or she slips while she is out there threatening to jump, we don't quite know.
And Batman comes in and just swoops her up in his arms. So you almost think of, and it's only like a page, like 2 pages, and you see this. Like, well, what's this got to do with anything? And then up, right after he saves her, he looks down at the train that's passing by. What the devil?
What the devil?
And
there's the body that the goons got rid of. Put him on a ride to get him on the other side of the city.
Connecting. Okay, now we're piecing this stuff together, and that's what I mean. I think this isn't the Long Halloween. This isn't year one. This isn't Dark Knight Returns. But it's like, oh, okay. Well, you're connecting all the pieces. Cool.
It's a fun story that really moves. It's got a fluidity to the way it tells the story. You start here, and this is the thing that happens next, and after that, this is the thing, and because that happens, away we go. And when I was a kid, I was young and I could read, but I probably wasn't like, certainly not the level of reader I am today. I was like, I thought for sure this poor woman that was, at her end, that Batman saves. I thought for sure that was Vicky Vale because I knew she was very attractive and she had long blonde hair and kind of this party dress on. I was like, why is Vicky Vale
white in Batman 89? So that's just what she wears, right?
Yep. And of course you get like the other thing that's great from 90s Batman comics is there's just always a giant yellow full moon with bats flying in front of it. Like that's just
God bless them.
God's so good. Looks so just a delight.
It looks great. I mean the action sequence this is our first taste of it going bonkers.
Oh yeah.
Is the dragon, the demon dragon. Eclipso itself we could say then, right? I like Demon Dragon, the double D, if you will.
Sure.
Just great. Like it's crazy. It's classic Gotham though, am I right?
Yeah, well, and then again, as a kid, I remember being like, what's going on with Batman? Because I assumed this creature is kind of bat-like, right? It's got the big wings, has the horn-like ears on the top of the head, and flies in front of the aforementioned giant yellow full moon that makes kind of a bat symbol. And he's like swooping down on cars and grabbing with his claws and like flipping and flying them away. And in sort of like an old school, like 40s Batman moment or late 30s, the driver of the car, the man we've been following, the goon Batman was kind of tracking down, dies. The car gets like flipped away and Batman's like, well, there's nothing I can do for this. I can't remember what he says. It's like, there's nothing I can do for this lost soul or something like that. But it was like one of those, remember when when you read like really old school Batman issues, like even after he stopped killing people, it was sort of like a fitting end, like just a little bit rough there, Bruce. Why don't you?
Nothing I can do for those poor devils.
That's exactly it.
Let me fire my laser proton gun at the Eclipso. Fortunately, I'm still carrying that solar flashlight Bruce Gordon, there he is, gave me. Solar energy is the only thing that can destroy an Eclipso.
Nothing like a little information drop when the writer's writing a comic book. Where's the spot we're gonna get Batman to tell us how things work? But backstory: Bruce Gordon was
Thank heavens for Bruce Gordon.
is a scientist who was trying to develop solar power, studied the power of the sun. Pretty inconvenient if your alter ego or other side is a darkness demon, but that's how these things go. Laura, another reason why I thought this would be a nice little book for Halloween talk. The Wax Museum. Did you notice?
Oh yeah.
The kind of universal monster backdrop of when they're going into the Wax Museum, and you see Dracula. I think you see what I assume to be King Kong, which I wouldn't associate with like the rest of classic movie monsters. But you get a werewolf, you get a mummy, the whole deal.
Yeah, it looks great, and then all that's cool. It's good
Frankenstein.
Stuff. Now I'm scared. See the visuals. The visuals definitely made it spooky season material. But that sounds good. Of like a King Kong. I mean, holding a woman in his hand, it's counts for me. I do love I don't know where it came from, but it's doing the Frankenstein arms out.
Right.
You know what? I'll allow it, Garrett. And then the torture chamber is scary. There's skulls and bones hanging.
Yeah. Skeletons hanging from chains.
Literally gets tortured.
It's real. It's real.
Let's talk about the bonkers part of this, though.
Oh, man.
Where they really
all this
said,
is only
let's
the build-up.
Let's do this. Joker has the black diamond in his hand. He crushes that shit, and he sniffs it, and he goes full-on Arkham Asylum Bane.
Oh, I didn't pull that together. I don't know how all these years I wouldn't have said, oh, yeah. When he gets on the Venom in Arkham Asylum, it's kind of very, very similar. Good pull, Ryan.
And then Batman says, all right. So then he crushes it too. And then Batman just blows up himself. And I thought, this shit just got real.
Yeah.
Here go.
He had this solar power flashlight, which should be able to take out these Eclipso creatures. It ends up in the larger crossover that like Earth's heroes get these solar powered weapons, and there's this big showdown.
Okay.
But Batman gets his super solar powered flashlight like blown to bits. So the only thing left for him to do to stop this creature is he's got to get demon monstered out too, and then it's the battle royale.
And I love they do a full page of Batman on top of Joker, just tearing up the world. And somehow in the take telephone poles and beat the hell out of each other with it, and then a ventriloquist club. I never knew that ventriloquist ever had a club.
I didn't. Not something I was known. Flies into the neon light and gets zapped.
Yeah, that's great. And then it gets. Well, if you see it, they do mess up a little bit because the panel right before that, Batman's already starting to lose like his shirt and everything. But then you turn the page, or 2 pages later, it's a full suited Batman and he's fine. Not a big deal, but then I laugh because then Batman's got his full shirt on, and then all of a sudden, it's like he said, "To hell with this top. I need to show my new muscles."
Yeah. I'm
a gladiator.
I'm a giant demon monster, and I want to show off these abs.
Yeah, he went full powers, and he's got part of the railroad track, and he's just like doing like ready for a javelin throw, and that's just what a good blockbuster kind of fight that's illustrated here. And it's not top 50 Batman fights, but it is just kind of fun. It's just monsters. It's monsters that just so happen to be like some of my favorite characters in all of fiction. Like,
Right.
and
Right.
it's fun for me. I don't care. It's a good time.
It is a good time, and I think what's really kind of fun for me, and what kind of brings it back to Earth and makes it a little bit more, Batman than just two big monsters beating the heck out of each other for the last 6, 7, 8 pages of the book, is that they're equally matched. They're really having a hard time taking each other out because they both have the power of Eclipso. And as I said before,
you want to say it. They have the power.
they have the power. Different hero.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. So the way this is the way this works in the story is whoever uses that black diamond, either Eclipso acts on their behalf, or the power of Eclipso means that the object of their anger will meet their vengeful end, right? But if Batman and Joker are both using this, they're both equally matched. They essentially both have the power of Eclipso. They cannot take each other out. But that's not Batman's point. He's not trying to use the power of Eclipso to kill Joker. He is trying to have an evenly matched fight that drags on long enough for the sun to come up, because like we said, this is a shadow vengeance demon beast monster. So when the sun comes up, they both revert back to their own shape, and it was Batman's, wicked smart plan from the beginning. Outlast, sun comes up, I'm the big winner. Go Batman.
Sometimes dialogue definitely it makes me laugh of how imagine Joker and Batman are both behemoths. They're duking it out. And then they both say, "The sun! No! And then they're back to their normal selves."
Shared speech bubbles.
Yeah. Perfect. And how quickly you turn the page and yep.
Resolution happens quick. What more do you need than a full page? Now it's not Batman swinging in front of a big giant, full moon. Now it's Batman swinging in front of the newly risen sun, grabbing Joker by the collar, saying, "Let's get you to Arkham," or whatever. Time to go
Come
home.
on, Joker. It's time to go home. The Darkness Within continues in Adventures of Superman Annual number 4, now on sale. And the exciting Eclipso saga concludes next week in Eclipso, The Darkness Within number 2. Well, thank you, DC. Jeepers.
Gosh golly,
that's
heck.
Fun. What a time to be alive.
I kind of wish I was older so I could have appreciated it more, because the other thing in this issue is the subscription page, the advertisement for you to, subscribe to get DC Comics in the mail. I mean, you get 3 titles.
What a bargain.
What was it? For you get 3 different titles for $40 for the whole year. Come on. Mailed to your home? And you can't get deals like that today. Not with the current inflation rates, Ryan. Won't
Absolutely
happen.
not. No. This was a bargain. We didn't know how nice we had it in the 90s. And I wasn't making any money because at this time I was
just
6.
A wee boy. Yeah.
Yeah. My parents didn't throw me out in the fields at dusk until 7. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's thoughtful of them.
A little bit. Man, I was looking at that, and it's funny when I do look at some back issue stuff and I come across something like this. And it's like, gee, now which ones would I have taken?
Oh, always.
Batman and Detective Comics. Oh man, but the Batman Adventures are in there too. Ooh, and I create my own level of stress in this non-existent problem.
I know. It's not an actual challenge. No one is forcing you to ask yourself that question. But I just be like, I don't know. I got to start a lawn mowing business, or I don't know, vacuum the older neighbor's house because I can't pass up Superman or Superman the Man of Steel. Batman Shadow of the Bat. That was an older kid book. I remember that wasn't one that it was almost too creepy for me when we were little. I probably could have passed that one up. But yeah, Detective Batman, Batman Adventures.
Those covers were scary shit. I think the one that they had, because it might have been during Nightfall, that had, I think it was Scarecrow on it, and he's creeping over and kind of like on Batman, who was laying down on a bed. Terrified me, but I loved it. This would have creeped me out, but this cover, it definitely would have creeped me the F out as a youngster.
Yeah, it really does play off of that the famous "Here's Johnny" scene from The Shining. And what was the other one? The NES cover, the game cover we talked about too. Yeah, it's just a great Joker image. The bright red burning eyes and the green eyebrows, the maniacal grin and hair. It's a very, I think, cover and interior art for this book are just really stylized. So the pencils were done by Vincent Giordano, and he was a comic book artist that worked with DC for a while in the 90s. Had some good success, and then decided I believe he wanted to become more of a fine artist, and has become a very successful painter, like particularly like very realistic paintings, and hasn't worked in comic books, for like 30 plus years at least.
That's too bad. So you saying that, and that's where I'm a big fan of digital. It's convenient.
Sure.
It looks so pretty on these screens, but like holding this physical issue in my hand and then looking at the opening page, then you go to the next page and it's close-ups on the guy's face and stuff like that, and it's just like in the coloring and all of that and the paper quality, it's so much different, and I just think better than digitally, because stuff gets recolored digitally, and it just doesn't have that same kind of effect. So it's the smallest and nerdiest kind of thing, but I mean, that's just where I think that's where physical can just win.
Yeah, and I think paper type goes a long way for me. I love
Yes.
more of this just sort of standard newspaper type print. Glossy pages are nice, and the images, with the modern art style can really pop. But there's something about, having, what I would kind of think of as like pre-Jim Lee influenced art with just your standard newspaper, that the look and feel work so well together. It's not overly flashy. It's still beautiful and detailed and cool, but it's got, this old school nostalgic look for me. That's really right up my alley.
Right up your alley. Excellent. Garrett, let's hop into some favorites.
Yeah, let's do it.
What was your favorite part of By Darkness Possessed?
Favorite parts probably changed because I've had this one over the years, and it's just a book that I've revisited a number of times. But my favorite part is it's the first time we get a larger shot of the Joker. So his goons are pulling in the cop that he's going to be looking for information from on the whereabouts of the Eclipso diamond. And I mentioned it. You see Joker sitting on an enormous pile of cash in this torture dungeon room with, holding a skull like something out of Hamlet, right?
Yeah.
And skeletons hanging from the ceiling. And I just be like, as a kid, this was not the Joker I was familiar with, right? This wasn't even Jack Nicholson level Joker. This was, certainly not Cesar Romero Joker. This is on a whole different level. So I thought that opening view of him, and then watching like the sadistic nature of the Joker, torturing this guy to get the information, pushing the edge. And then once he gets it, boom, I'm going to hit you with the Joker toxin. And this might have been, quite frankly, besides kind of in comic book form, my real exposure to Joker utilizing the Joker toxin to give someone that like Richter grin and, take him out of business. So that's a part that really stands out as like, I think they did this really well.
Yeah. Done really well. Not my favorite Joker design, I don't think.
No, it's a little bit even more cartoonish than the rest of the art style, but I think it works.
As I say, it works because it's all the characteristics of the Joker are present. for everything that you just said and how the scene plays out and what he does and everything. It's like that's so spot on Joker that it's not bothersome to me. It's just as the design goes, it's probably not my favorite, but I think my favorite part is the opening. I love Batman's taking down of Johnny Manzoni,
right?
And the interrogation, and it's something. It's simple, but it's like that's Batman. His toying with the guy and dropping him from the roof, but prevents him from actually getting hurt. Pulls him up as soon as he gets the information he needs, and then he says, and I couldn't help but think of my own outro. He says, "Spread the word" at the bottom.
And the word is, he didn't say it, but he was thinking it.
Yeah. The guy thought that. Johnny thought that.
For sure.
Panic.
He's like, I am panicked, sir. Don't worry.
I'm definitely panicked.
I'm already there.
And yes, I started to stink, and it wasn't because of the garbage.
I can only panic so hard.
What's your favorite panel?
I really think I think I mentioned it. I know I did. It is Batman swooping in to save Marcy is her name. I just think it's just like pure 90s comic book Batman. You have the bats all aflutter around them. You have the giant yellow moon in the background. You're very scantily clad, very shapely, beautiful woman, which is hallmark of 90, like long leg. You know the image.
Yeah.
And then just jacked Batman. This Batman is shredded and built, and you see every single ab and oblique, and just like grabbing her with the bat rope. All right, I've got you. It really doesn't have that much to do with the story, but I think it's a gorgeous like splash, full page. There's a separate panel, but this could be a poster on some dork's wall in the 90s. I'd have this thing hung up in my office now if they had a print of it someplace. I think it's a great panel, great full page panel.
Shout out to a guy we both know, Peter Arvera, Yellow Oval. Kind of front and center.
Yeah, it's like right there. And that's what I mean. I think this is for an artist that didn't do a ton of Batman. When I think of like, if you showed me, a whole list of panels or full pages and said, pick out like sort of archetypical 90s, early 90s Batman, this would be one of the ones I select.
Yeah. We know that's what Marcy's really looking at.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, by golly, look at that.
Look at that oval.
Mine isn't too far off. That's a great image for sure. But mine is when the bus that goes off the bridge.
It's a great one.
We got Batman diving.
Yep.
Diving into the water. But I mean, there it is again. Yellow moon, bats flying, Batman coming at you image, jumping
Fist
off the
right
building.
in your face.
That's freaking Batman. And that's so 90s Batman too. For everything yet again that you just said, minus the woman, it's just him solo. Like I can picture this and think, oh yeah, there's definitely covers that were similar to this. There were promotional images that were, that were drawings like this and stuff. And that's classic Batman to me. Would you like to see this? Would you like to see this animated somehow?
Yeah, I mean, sure. If you're gonna do, if they wanted to have like monstrous stories of the Batman or a title that doesn't suck and have it be like 15-minute, stories and maybe you package 6 or 7 of them together, like that'd be cool. Like I think if you could do something that sort of really calls back to 90s, early 90s Batman art style, I think it's a fun story. You could probably find a way to make the Eclipso, the Darkness Within, larger story into an animated movie more easily than trying to adapt this specifically. But if you put like, gosh, I don't know, the new Batman series we're getting seems like it wouldn't be the right place for something like this. But this could be like a 22-minute, TV episode, or it could be a 15-minute, entry in a collection of like monster themed Batman stories. I think that could be cool.
They did that 3-movie Batman Unlimited series, and one was called Monster Mayhem.
Oh, that's
So I
right.
guess something that was aimed at kids, and I really highly doubt, and something aimed at kids, you would have people huffing anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they would change it and whatnot. This kind of reminded me too of, remember in the first crossover in the Rebirth era of Night of the Monster Men, which is, I think, just terrible.
Yeah, it's not a good
This was
one.
done so much. This was done so much better. And I'm just thinking one issue, but I mean, Batman and Joker turned into monsters, and it worked out much better than Batman and company fighting these monsters that were. It wasn't that great, but I don't know how they could. It could be a totally bonkers animated episode, but I mean, even then, it would be risky. I think
Yeah.
it could end up being like, oh yeah, that's the one episode we don't talk about.
Yeah.
So it'd have to be an episode, not a whole movie. I wouldn't want to see a whole hour and 15-minute movie of this.
There's not enough there.
No. So it would have to be the 20-something minute episode. And I don't know. I have good feelings about this one singular issue. I think I'm happy just leaving it.
Sometimes it's like, I rarely have this experience, but you go out to eat or go over to a friend's house for dinner or something, and you eat a good amount of food, and you say to yourself, I probably could eat more of this. I don't know that I need to. I think I'm satisfied right now. I typically don't make that decision.
I was going to say that usually doesn't happen with me,
Yeah,
but
I know.
I like to think it does.
But if that ever were to happen, right? Like, I think this is an example of like, this is good. I enjoyed it. I don't know that I need a ton more of it, but I like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mr. Grev, before we sign off, do you have any final thoughts about Batman by Darkness Possessed?
No, I would encourage people to check it out. I think, you found it for $4. I've seen it for a couple bucks before. I just love picking up some of these old back issue comics, for the stories themselves, especially when they're sort of their era. A lot of times we talk about Batman comic books that are timeless, and that's cool. That's totally rad. I think there's a ton. Obviously, those are the classics that people will be reading for 100 years. People will talk about The Long Halloween 100 years from now. I have no doubt.
They better be.
Right. But there is something special about comic book issues that really tell you when they were made, what era they're from. You can visually notice it. The story kind of lets you know it. They're of their era, and then you get like the cool ads or the mail away offers. I think the last page on this is a advertisement for Batman 486, which was kind of like the kickoff to Nightfall, like the proto Nightfall issue. It maybe happened 3 or 4 issues before Nightfall actually started. But like it's just great. So if you have a chance to go out and pick it up, do it. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a bit of a different Batman story, but there's so much good stuff in there that you'll have a fun time. Trust me.
Echo everything that my fellow Midwesterner just said, and yeah, I think that's key. Is how you just ended it. It's just a fun issue. You don't expect for it to change your life or be the definitive Batman tale or anything. It's just a fun 90s throwback issue that I don't know, depends on how you feel by the end of it. If you want to try and track down the rest of the storyline, or if you're just good with this, it's a fun time.
Absolutely.
Good old Batman. Eclipso, The Darkness Within by Darkness Possessed, Batman Annual, number 16 in 1992. Woo!
So
Mr.
much.
Grev, thank you again so much for coming back and grabbing such an off the wall, way out there issue that the stars aligned because it was there in my back issue. A nearly 30-year-old book was waiting in the back issue bin. Just one.
It was meant to be.
It was. The grade was a 9.2.
Wow,
So,
how about that?
Yeah, I think the label's a little off, though. It says Azrael as Batman, intro Geist the Twilight Man. Yeah, that's not Batman Annual number 16.
That's not what happened in this book.
Yeah, not at all. Cool. So, Mr. Grev, if people don't know where to follow you or hear your other thoughts or anything like that, why don't you just plug away?
Oh, sure. I would love to. If you would like to hear me talk about Batman more, you can do it. Good news.
Woohoo!
Over at the Batman on Film podcast. You can love to have you listen to me there. If you have any show suggestions or feedback, you can interact with me on those subjects, Batman related subjects, but also the Minnesota Vikings, fantasy football, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, talking about my kids, making up silly songs on guitar, all of that and more over at my Twitter account. That's at Garret Wato, GarretWato, as well as over on the Batman on Film website, where you can find my comic book and movie reviews. Go check those out. Read away if you'd be so pleased. And otherwise, show up for my appearances every couple months over on this show. If Ryan has me back, you can hear me here again at some point.
The big ol' M signal will shine bright, and as long as you accept the invitation, respond.
Sure.
I don't know.
Respond. Yeah.
How about I try not to be so clever? Garret, you're invited back.
Cool.
There we go.
I'll take off my shoes when I walk in the front door, just like we do in the Midwest.
Yes, we're not animals.
No.
Okay. We have manners.
Yeah. I'll bring a hot dish.
Like I said at the top of the show, you can follow the Batman Book Club on the Batman Podcast Network. You can also do it on Twitter at thebatmanbc. Also Instagram at the Batman BC for latest episode drops, upcoming episodes, and sometimes even some giveaways. You can follow me on Twitter if you so desire at Lauer_Ryan. Lauer spelled like lower. If you'd like to write into the show, because who knows, may start reading a question or two in future episodes, you can do so. Anything Batman at all at thebatmanbc@gmail.com. Also, like I said at the top of the show, if you would like to support the show, help keep them lights on in the Wayne Manor study, you can do so at patreon.com/thebatmanbc. If you'd like to support the show and wear some merchandise, you can visit the TeePublic store, which has t-shirts, which actually some people just bought some stuff today. Thank you so much. Stickers, hoodies, onesies for your little ones, anything like that. It's in the TeePublic store. The shop is in the link on the Twitter page. But if you would like to support the show and you don't want to spend any money at all, that is 100% A-okay. The best way that you can help the show is giving it a rate and review on Apple Podcasts page. The link to that page is in the description of this episode. The more reviews we get, the more it helps spread the word. And as we all know, the word is panic. Panic. So, for Mr. Garret Grev, I am Ryan Lauer. And until next time, read more Batman comics.